Welcome back to the best division in football with your boys Authentic and The Beard. The best playoff television show not on TV. We still got two teams left in the NFC East. The Washington Commanders, who will be headed to the D to take on the Detroit Lions, and the Philadelphia Eagles, who will be welcoming the Rams, who will be traveling to the Linc to take on the Eagles. I know y'all saw that clip with that nasty fan. Things are getting really ugly with them Philadelphia Eagles. Should be a really interesting divisional round. We got two games we're going to preview today. Shout out to the gang that's here bright and early, man. Y'all know what it is. Let's bring in the best co-host in the whole damn country. My brother from another mother, the strong side to the left side duo, the man who's still got two teams left in the playoffs here when we talk about the college football scene as well with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, but more importantly with the Washington Commanders. The Beard is in the building.
Oh. We're here, man. This is crazy. First of all, shout out to the NFC East, the only division in the NFL with two teams left in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna put that out there right now.
Absolutely,
okay?
absolutely.
So
I wish we could be one of them. But
I do
I'm
too.
happy
Trust
for y'all.
me. I wish you were here with me, but listen. I got a lot going on. I got the shed. I got the baby. I got the business. There's nothing makes me more happy than being able to chop it up and talk ball with my best bud for an hour here.
Absolutely.
When I got the Commanders in the playoffs, the Fighting Irish in the playoffs. I mean, listen, 2 walk-off wins on field goals, bro. But it got to the point. It got to the point where it was after the game ended, the Washington game. Josie was like, "I was this close to banning you from football because you look like you're gonna have a heart attack." I stood the entire fourth quarter of the Tampa Bay game. It was crazy,
It's 19 years in the making, man. So this is this. Hopefully, this does not become a regular gap kind of situation between the time y'all make it to winning a playoff game and the struggling seasons in between. So you got to understand the circumstances.
I will tell you this for all my hockey fans out there. So you guys know Alex Ovechkin is chasing the record for most goals scored in NHL history on Wayne Gretzky. Okay, I know I'm talking to you, right? But just think about this: he's chasing down Wayne Gretzky for the most goals scored ever. He had 25 goals the last time that the Commanders won a playoff game. He now has like 860 goals.
I mean, we're talking, that was half of my life, bro. Forget Alex Ovechkin. That was half of my life ago that you guys were winning a playoff game. So it's definitely been a big difference. What did you think about the performance in the wild card round? Like, how would you grade your team? Did you think, they showed up to their best ability, or, you think they left some things out there on the field?
I mean, there's definitely some things that got left out on the field. You're talking about the run game has been a thing, and we'll talk about that. Jaden Daniels literally had to kind of like put things on his shoulders like he has been. I mean, this is like the 6th game in a row we've won on the last possession. So it's the penalties were a little bit better. We only had 5 penalties in that game, but it got a little dicey there in the second half. I started getting a little scared. I thought the defense played really well considering, like Tampa Bay is a pretty potent offense. The biggest thing was obviously the time of possession. I think Tampa Bay only had 3 drives in the second half, 7 total drives for the game. So, I thought
it was one of those kind of games, too, where there wasn't many drives in it. The Washington Commanders were limited to 3 drives in the first half as well.
Yeah, so for me, those sort of things stood out. And obviously, just the level that you're impressed with in which Jaden Daniels handles himself. I mean, we know we've gotten to the point now where we've come accustomed to it, right? But, to see it on the road in the playoffs, it's just like he just keeps checking off all the boxes that you like. He's gotten to the point where he's checking boxes that they had to write in for them to check because nobody thought that we would be where we are right now. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I mean, just a few teams left, and to think that the Washington Commanders are one of them is I wouldn't say it's impossibly something I didn't think about, but it's definitely extremely surprising to see all there. And that's a good look for y'all, especially going into next year. A lot of salary cap spendings that you guys are going to be able to, save and spend some money on next year. I think it's $90 million. So this team is just getting started. And I think the NFC East, all the other teams in the division need to be on notice here that the Washington Commanders are slowly but surely, I won't even say slowly but surely, let's just say fast as shit, climbing that ladder and becoming a perennial contender within this division.
Yeah, and I thought that the game itself was the best game of the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, all the other games were kind of a little I wouldn't necessarily say blowouts, but a lot of the other games, there was no game was closer as far as point differential it was in this game. Every other game was a double-digit, end as far as the final score went. So I thought this game was the best game. I mean, Jaden did some things that nobody else has ever done. He was the first rookie quarterback to have 2 passing touchdowns in a road playoff win. I think he's the first rookie quarterback to win a road playoff game since Russell Wilson, if I'm not mistaken, when Russell Wilson beat RG3. I think that was the last
Sounds
time.
about right. 2012.
Yeah, right around there. And then the first rookie quarterback to do so much this year has been kind of crazy. And then obviously him and only one other quarterback have managed to have a game where they punted the ball 0 times and had 0 turnovers on the road in a playoff game. And the other quarterback is Peyton Manning. So I'd say we're doing pretty good. We've got pretty good company. There's going to be a lot of things that have to go our way, and we're going to talk about that today. But I was excited. I was happy. I thought that the one thing I'll tell you, which I noticed in this game, a little bit more so than some of the other games recently, the Saints game, the Cowboys game, I thought that the level of intensity was from the first whistle to the final whistle on both sides of the ball. I thought, because there was times where they were getting beat in the trenches. There's no doubt about that. You know, we talked about how much of a problem Vita Vea was going to be, but they just seemed to be a little bit more tenacity. They were flying a little bit more, and it just seemed like it was going the entire game. I know I talked about this team, and they never quit, and that's a big thing, but I was impressed in which the level of urgency, without being like frantic, that the team played throughout the game on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely. Defense showed up in a major way. I can remember a moment in the beginning of the game when the crowd started getting extremely loud and the camera just zoomed right into Jayden Daniels' helmet. Like literally the frame was like just this right here. And the dude just looked completely, like he's got ice running through his veins. He's
blood
just
coming down his face, ice in the veins. I mean,
he's just a cool, calm, collective. Yeah. The word I love to use for Jayden Daniels is poised, man. He's just a poised quarterback, and for a guy that young to be handling his business like that is definitely extraordinary. And I know the Commanders are extremely happy to have a quarterback like that. I remember a couple of conversations I had with some homies during some Twitter spaces. A few homies like, I don't know about this Jayden Daniels character. Even with the homies, that we grew up with, sandbox homies, like, I don't know, he's too skinny. Maybe he's going to get hurt. And I'm like, listen, man, I did the work. I watched Jayden Daniels in college, watched every snap of his. And that dude was an absolute dog in college. And I think it was like a no-brainer evaluation for the Washington Commanders. And I don't know if you heard the story that came out. I think Ramblin' Rio was the one that broke the story about this, that was saying that Adam Peters was headed towards going to have a interview with Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson actually wanted to roll with Sam Howell at the quarterback position, and they turned the plane around. So I don't know how much validity there is to that.
I didn't know that was a thing. I know that they were on their way to go see him, and that he decided that he didn't want the job, but I didn't know it was Sam Howell related.
That was the rumor before, but from what Ramblin' Rio, somebody that was on his podcast, I forget who it was, somebody that's very, high up in the ranks of football, was talking with him, and they were pretty much saying that was the story, that it wasn't that he turned it down. It was that Adam Peters knew that he was going with Jayden Daniels and that there was no way they were going to bring in a coach that was going to go with the opposite game plan. Like I said, I don't know how much validity, to that story there is, but if that's the case, I mean, that speaks volumes with the ownership and the front office with the Washington Commanders, who have been doing a hell of a job this season. Yeah,
I listen. I think Dan Quinn should get some Coach of the Year votes. I definitely think Adam Peters is going to get some Executive of the Year votes. It's been pretty wild to see what we've been through and where we are now, and it's not done. The job is not done, and we're going to talk about what needs to be done next in order to stick around for another week.
Absolutely. Let's start with this super chat here real quick from the homie B-Rog.
Big shout out to B-Rog with the $10 super chat. Says, G-Men suck, but I don't mind living this year's playoff life through the Beard's best playoff game of the round. Makes me want to move back to Tyson's Corner. I'll tell you what doesn't want you to move back to Tyson's Corner is that Tyson's Corner traffic. It is hell over there. But, I mean, listen, B-Rock, I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. And shout out to all the Giants fans, the Cowboys fans. I saw Gregory in here earlier. Everybody been showing nothing but love to the Beard and the Beard's teams, the Commanders and the Irish, and I can't thank y'all enough. It means a lot to have the support of the family.
Yeah.
Hey man, so that's the tight end wide receiver in me. You got to talk to that person every once in a while. But we appreciate it, B-Rock. Means a lot, bud.
Absolutely, man. Big shout out to B-Rog one time in the building, man. We're going to link up soon, too, my G. And big shout out to Darnell D and all the rest of y'all in the chat as well. I see Ref the District is in the building. Make sure you hang tight, Ref the District. I'm telling you, this Washington Commanders breakdown, you might want to break out, the old school beard pen and pad for this one, because I definitely brought a good 40-piece nugget to the table. I know the beard is prepared for that matchup as well.
Oh. And shout out to Jimmy. Jimmy's in the chat. I don't know. He's probably cutting somebody's hair, listening and watching right now.
Oh,
Jimmy is my barber. He's a Detroit Lions fan. He hit me up on a text. He's like, "Yo, let me know when the pod is going live."
Come on, Jimmy. You supposed to know the schedule at this point, Jimmy. All right, let's get off into this first matchup, though, before we get to talking about the Commanders. And the Los Angeles Rams are going to be headed to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles one time. All right, man, this is a very exciting matchup here, man, with two offenses that are capable of definitely lighting up the scoreboard and running away with this game. The Los Angeles Rams are 11-7 now. The Philadelphia Eagles are 15-3. Kickoff is Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Eagles are favored by 6.5 in this one. Last week, the Eagles beat the Packers 22-10. Jalen Hurts didn't have that impressive of a game, just 131 passing yards on the day. The defense ended up forcing 3 interceptions on my doppelganger, Jordan Love, and Saquon Barkley just handling business like he has done all throughout this season. He had 119 yards on the ground. Jalen Hurts' leading wide receiver was Devonta Smith with just 55 yards on 4 receptions. And the Rams beat the Vikings 27-9. Matthew Stafford finished 18-27 for 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Pretty decent day from him. Sam Darnold, the numbers don't quite tell the whole entire story, but he did struggle in this game early on with some inaccuracy type of issues as well. He was 25 of 40 for 245, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And I think the big theme of that game was that Brian Flores' defense did not show up in that game the way that they did all year. The Rams led 24-3 at the half in that one, so that game was pretty much all but over by the time we got to halftime. Last meeting between these two teams, the Eagles beat the Rams in Week 12, 37-20. The Eagles rushed for 314 yards on the ground in that game. A.J. Brown had a great day that day as well, 6 receptions for 109, 1 touchdown. Just 167 net passing yards for the Eagles in that game. So A.J. Brown was really, the pass offense for that game with a couple of big plays. Stafford was decent in that last meeting, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's like Matthew Stafford's kind of theme. Give me about a good 242 touchdowns, no picks. Puka Nacua had 117 yards on 9 receptions, but the Rams were 0 for 8 on third down in that game. I'm sure they're looking back at that tape, definitely looking at that third down situation. I know the Beard's going to be talking about third down a lot in this matchup as well. The Eagles have won the last 2 matchups, but have also won 10 of the last 14 dating back to 2001. The Rams did win the most recent playoff game between these two teams. It was the 2001 NFC Championship game. They won that one 29-24. And this will be the 4th playoff matchup between these two teams. The Rams have won the previous 2 matchups in the playoffs. I'll start here with the Rams before we start talking about the Eagles. I'll kick it over to you in a second here. But for the Rams, I think an early lead or keeping it close is definitely going to be the theme of the day for them. The Rams got out to a 24-3 lead at the half last week versus the Vikings. Stafford started off 10 for 10 on the day. They coasted to that 27-9 victory. And the Eagles are a very different team, but they do struggle in the first quarter. We've talked about that a lot, but the Eagles are definitely a different animal. Keeping it close for the Rams, I think, could be a win in this game. I know they want to get the early lead, but this is going to be a very powerful Philadelphia Eagles team. The Rams are 7-0 when within just a touchdown entering the fourth quarter this season. So if this is a 7-point margin and we enter the fourth quarter, the Rams have a extremely high chance of winning this game. They have not lost any games underneath those circumstances this year. Got to find a way to stop the run. Saquon put up 255 yards in the Week 12 meeting, and I think you need more out of Kyren Williams. Last week, Kyren Williams, I thought it was a decent day, 76 yards on the ground against the Vikings, but this is a tougher task versus an interior defensive line with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. This is going to be a tall task, and I think that if you want to aid Matthew Stafford towards a victory, Kyren Williams is definitely going to have to be a factor. But the most important matchup to me is the Rams wide receivers going up against the Eagles secondary. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay. These are just all guys at the top of their positions right now. Puka Nacua, he has been playing pretty decent, but he has 4 straight games without a touchdown right now. He's definitely still producing. He's averaging 81.5 yards per game right now, but just 44 yards versus Minnesota. But I think a lot of that had to do with just not needing that in the second half and coasting to the victory. Now, on the other hand, Cooper Kupp has absolutely struggled this year.
Yeah.
And he has struggled as of late. In his last 4 games, 0 touchdowns. He has not breached 30 receiving yards in any game in the past 4 games. He had 29 yards last week versus the Minnesota Vikings. And the Eagles are the number 1 defense. So this is, like I said, going to be a taller task for them. The Eagles held the Packers to just 19 net yards in the first quarter last week. No Nakobe Dean. He's got the season-ending knee injury. That's going to definitely hurt them, with a little bit of pun intended on that. But I think taking care of the ball is where it starts for them. If the Rams want to keep this game close, I think they absolutely got to take care of the ball. No turnovers, especially from inside the pocket. I think that's super important. The Rams were 0-5 this season when losing at least 1 fumble. It's the worst in the NFL right now. Now, for the Philadelphia Eagles, really quickly, and I'll kick this over to you, is you got to establish tempo early in this game. Jalen Hurts played a mediocre game last week, and I look at it as like when a boxer has, a prize fight coming up, and 9 months before that, he's trying to get a tune-up fight to get ready for that. That's kind of what the game was last week for Jalen Hurts. He's coming back off missing 3 weeks off the concussion. I think the Rams are going to be a bit of a bigger test for him. You're not going to be able to go out there and put up 131 passing yards and win this game. Jared Verse, Braden Fisk are really evolving and really settling in that defense over there. And the first quarter points has been a major issue for the Philadelphia Eagles throughout the whole entire year, pretty much. The Eagles forced a fumble on the opening kickoff last week, though, and they scored a touchdown on the opening drive. So a start like that could really help the Eagles get that, that head start in this game and make it an easy way to try to coast to a victory. The Eagles went, down the field on that first drive, scored a touchdown. It was your boy Jahan Dotson who actually scored in that one. They ranked 19th in first quarter points, right? And we talked about this earlier on this year where they had that stretch where they couldn't even score in the first quarter. They're ranked 19th. That's pretty good considering how they started off the year. The Eagles, in the first 13 weeks of the season, they only had 17 points in the first quarter. And then in the last 5 first quarters of the regular season, they scored 55 points. So that right there, that stark difference, you hope that the Philadelphia Eagles are striding as they get into the playoffs here. And maybe last week was just a little bit of a fluke, but the Rams defense as well, they're not that good in the first quarter. They've allowed the 26 most points in the first quarter this season. So I do think that this is about the Eagles and the Rams both getting off to a quick start. Whichever team can really dominate the first half, I think is going to increase their chances at winning this game. How you seeing this one?
This is going to be an interesting matchup. I thought that the first matchup, we really talked about that first matchup at that point in the season as it being a really, a good game between those two teams. And it was a lot of offensive power in that game. You mentioned Saquon Barkley. Not only did he have the 255 yards, he did on 26 carries, had 2 touchdowns, 4 catches for 47 yards too. So like Saquon was, that's over 300 total yards of offense, So obviously they brought Saquon here for a reason, and I think that they're gonna have to find a way to stop that run game. And the Rams are an interesting team because if you look at them throughout the season, there's a lot of fluctuation in the way that they play. They've had some games where they've held opponents under 10 points on multiple occasions, and then there's instances where they've given up 30, 40 points. So it's like, which Rams team is going to show up? And it works both ways, too. Offensively, they've had some inconsistencies, and you mentioned Cooper Kupp struggles. I'll tell you one guy who I've been impressed with over the last couple of weeks, especially in the playoff game, who recently came back from injury for the Los Angeles Rams, is Tyler Higbee. I think Tyler Higbee is going to be an interesting person to keep your eye on in this matchup. He's played pretty well the last couple of games, 2 games, 10 catches, 104 yards, and 1 touchdown over those 2 contests. So I think Higbee is going to be a guy to kind of keep your eye out on. The turnover differential, these teams are pretty close. Philadelphia is 4th in the league at plus 11. Los Angeles Rams are tied for 8th at plus 6 in turnover differential. Time of possession is going to be key here also because both of these teams, they're going to need to score some points against these tough defenses, and they're going to need to be able to control the pace. Philadelphia Eagles, and this kind of surprised me. I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but it's still, I guess a lot of that has to do with Saquon's success, but they are number 1 in time of possession at 32 minutes and 16 seconds average per game. The Los Angeles Rams, on the other hand, they are 23rd in the league in time of possession at only under 30 minutes at 29 minutes and 19 seconds. So who can win the time of possession is going to be very important in this game, obviously. You know, Matthew Stafford can put up those numbers with those weapons. They're 10th in the league in passing yards at 227.5. You talked about Philadelphia in that secondary. That matchup's going to be so key. Just like you said, they're only allowing 174.2 yards per game through the air, Philadelphia is. And so that's going to be very important. Quinyon Mitchell got his first interception in the playoff game, right?
Was that his first?
I think so. I think that was his first interception of the season. So the thing about Matthew Stafford, though, too, is he gets rid of the ball fairly fast. You know, that's that type of offense that they like to run. The Eagles are going to be without Nakobe Dean, who had been playing very well. So
he was playing lights out, man.
Yeah.
That guy. The leap that he took this year is just incredible.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for him. I don't know what the injury is, but I know that
I think it was
done.
ACL.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a patella tendon, I think, right?
Patella. It was patella. Yep, yeah. It was.
And so the Rams have, because of that offense, that style of offense, and Matthew Stafford getting rid of the ball so quickly, they've allowed the 5th fewest sacks in the NFL at 31. So that's going to be another thing that's key. You talked about making sure there's no turnovers in the pocket. So if a lot of those sacks lead to those turnovers in the pocket. So they're going to need to keep that up and not let Matthew Stafford get sacked too much in this game, obviously. The rush defense is going to be interesting for the Rams. They're 11th in the league. They're giving up 130 on the ground. We know about Philadelphia's rush offense, number 2 in the league. They're putting up damn near 180 per game.
Let me double check that. I think the ranking, I think the number's right, but the ranking is not. 128.7 yards. Yeah, they're allowing 128.7 yards. It's 21st on the NFL.
So 11th worst, yeah. So
you said 11th worst. Okay, yeah, I thought you said 11th best. Got you.
And then the thing that was really interesting, I thought you brought up, was Kyren Williams. Because Kyren Williams, he's a really good running back, in my opinion. And obviously I'm a little biased because of Notre Dame, but I think he's shown the ability to carry the rock, the load especially, and especially get in the end zone. The guy can score touchdowns. But it's almost like they have a weird balance sometimes in their game plans where it doesn't really allow Kyren Williams to kind of get going. And that's why you see a lot of those 70-yard games. And they're averaging the 9th lowest rushing yards per game at only 103.8. And they're going up against, the Philadelphia Eagles. So the rush defense is pretty good. It's going to be interesting what they do there. There's a big discrepancy in points per game here. Philadelphia is putting up 27.2. Rams are only putting up 21.6. So they're going to have to find a way to either stop the Eagles or put up the points, because we saw Philadelphia put up all those 37 points in their first matchup, So they're going to have to find a way to either combat and just score more points with Philadelphia or find a way to stop them. I think the Rams defense is better now than it was earlier in the season. You mentioned Jared Verse. Verse is probably going to be Defensive Rookie of the Year. I would imagine so.
Really? I haven't really thought about it yet.
You might be.
I can't. I wouldn't think so. I think one of the corners would win it over him.
That's what I was going to say. That you might think about one of the corners, but he's definitely in a discussion. I think he's gotten better as the year progressed, and that's something that you need from these defensive players, especially when you start making playoff runs. These young guys. Yep. The red zone's going to be interesting. Last week, Philadelphia was 1 for 4 in the red zone. They had the 3 turnovers they forced, which is super important, obviously.
Game should have been a blowout if their offense would have showed up.
Yeah, so 1 of 4 in the red zone's not really going to cut it. They're normally in the 13th in the league at about 57%. Their defense is really good in the red zone, and last week they proved that. Green Bay was 1 of 3 in the red zone last week against Philadelphia. The Rams offensively, which is interesting because we talk about Kyren Williams scoring touchdowns, and I think this goes back to what I just talked about, is that weird balance that they have sometimes. I think they get a little pass happy sometimes in the red zone. They are the 8th worst red zone offense, the Los Angeles Rams are, 52.4%. Last week, they were right around that number at 50%, 2 for 4. Their defense, though, is really good in the red zone, 5th best at 50%. And last week, they obviously held the Vikings to 0 for 1 in the red zone. Third down is going to be another big thing. Philadelphia's offense, 10th best. They were 2 for 11 though last week, like we mentioned. It's 2 for 11 on third down and 1 for 4 in the red zone. They got those 3 turnovers, and what's crazy is they only scored 7 points off of those 3 turnovers. So
it was on the first turnover.
The first turnover, the first fumble. So. It's kind of interesting how that game played out, but those are the sort of the things that I don't think that you're going to be able to overcome as easy against the Los Angeles Rams, and that's going to be a big thing here. The Los Angeles Rams offensively on third down, they are really bad. They are the 9th worst third down offense in the NFL. They're only converting 36.8% on third down. And you mentioned their third down rate in their first matchup against the Eagles last week in their win against the Vikings, 2 of 10 on third down. So there's a lot to digest here between these two teams. I think the pace of this game, and you talked about being early on pace, it's going to be really interesting to see how this pace of this game plays out. Like, is a slower pace game favor the Eagles and a faster pace game favors the Rams, I'd imagine?
I do think the slower pace favors the Eagles, because if the concern of stopping the run is more of a concern for the Rams. Like, the Eagles can go out there and stop Kyren Williams, but the Rams could still win this game if Saquon and the guys on the outside don't have a big day.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts is going to have to make some plays here.
Yeah.
He's going to have to make some plays here. But I think also the Rams getting after Hurts is going to be important. We rarely talk about Hurts and his legs as much as we used to. And he's made some big plays with his legs this year. But that contain is going to be important too. And not just for Jalen Hurts, but maybe a couple of little swing passes to Saquon Barkley. Last matchup, he had 4 catches for 47 yards. Those are the sort of things that get those third downs and turn them into first downs and keep the ball out of the hands of the Rams offense. So it's going to be interesting. I think this game is close. I do. And there was a part of me that would, if this game was being played, maybe not in LA, but a home game for LA, obviously, the fires are going on in LA right now, and they had to play in Arizona. And shout out to the Cardinals. They did a fantastic job of hosting that playoff game. I might have leaned towards the Rams. I really might have. McVay, Stafford, it's just something about them and the way that their defense has been playing. It's a scary matchup, I think, for the Eagles. But I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think the Eagles win this game. I'm going to go.
Yeah. Go ahead. You can give your score. Go ahead.
27-24.
Oh, so you got a close one there. I do think if a team is going to upset one this weekend, this looks like the one here. The Rams could be that team to upset. You talked about pace. I think first and second down are going to be extremely important. You got to get Saquon Barkley not only going early, but also use him to finish the game in the end. Creating manageable third down situations is going to be so important for Jalen Hurts in this game. And the Rams defense, on third and long, they have been incredible this year. They've allowed a passer rating of 49.8 on third and long this season. It's second best in the NFL. It's on 63 passing attempts. And they know that Saquon is going to be the focal point in this game. But the Rams can't afford to just stack the box because the weapons that are on the outside for the Philadelphia Eagles, you don't want to create those one-on-one matchups with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and now Jahan Dotson, who has came on as of late since Week 18 at the end of the season. But we're talking about a running back that went over 2,000 yards. Saquon's numbers in the last 10 weeks are just absolutely ridiculous right now. He's got 3 straight 100-yard performances. He has over 100 yards in 10 of his last 12 games. He only had 5 games all season where he was under 100 yards. In one of those games, he was at 95 yards. This is a Hall of Fame type season for Saquon Barkley, right? And I know at the beginning of the season, a lot of people laughed at that. I remember somebody in my comments saying, wait till this guy's going to be eligible for a gold jacket. And people like, Saquon? When he puts up seasons like this, it makes that decision very easy. 1 or 2 more like this, and Saquon's definitely going to be on his way to having a gold jacket. But each defense will have to figure out how to stop the run, while simultaneously stopping the weapons. I think that's going to be the hardest thing for both of these teams is, okay, you can try to stop Kyren, you can try to stop Saquon, but they got 2 dudes on the outside, 3 dudes on the outside that can really get it done. I also think one of 2 things needs to happen here. I talked about this last week, Jalen Hurts and his numbers, the 250 passing yards. That is the number that needs to be breached. The Eagles are 5-0 when Jalen Hurts throws for over 250 passing yards. The Eagles also had 25 rushes of 20 yards or more this season, which was second most in the NFL. So that leads me to talk about explosive plays a little bit. The Eagles are undefeated when creating 5 or more explosive plays. And it's not just 3 or 4 wins. They're 9-0 when they have 5 or more explosive plays. So I think if it's not going to be with the outside game, if it's not going to be with Saquon, it needs to be a accumulation of all of that and just create the explosive plays. That's what this Eagles offense has done really since A.J. Brown has been there. That's how they have ate, is the explosive plays on the fade ball on the outside when Jalen sees, either single high or, if he wants to take the whole shot against cover 2, he can do that as well. But majority of the time, it's against single high, middle of the field close. And if you can create those explosive plays, this could be one of those easy games if, like you said, they get in the red zone and they capitalize on those opportunities and score when they're in the red zone. Now, the explosive plays, you look back at the last game, we have to think about how good did the Rams get from that Week 12 matchup to now? We're talking just 2 months ago. So did they really increase that team that much where they're going to be able to compete with Saquon Barkley and this Philadelphia Eagles team? Saquon had 2 runs in that game over 70 yards for a touchdown. So we're talking about explosive plays over 20 yards. This guy's getting explosive plays over 70 yards. Last thing I think is the field position is going to be super important in this game. So turnovers are going to play their role. Special teams is going to play its role as well. Cooper DeJean has been doing a good job on returns. I like what he's doing. All these things are going to be important. The Eagles started 27 drives inside the opposing territory this season. That's the most in the NFL. If they can continue that, I think the Eagles should be prepared for this game. After a tune-up game last week, now you got a much better squad you're going up against with the LA Rams. I'm still taking the Philadelphia Eagles. And the NFC East is looking like they could be pushing towards the divisional round. We're going to see how it gets when we get to Washington. But I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles 31-21 against the Rams here.
So Authentic's got 31-21. Beard has 27-24. We're both on with the Philadelphia Eagles winning this matchup. And shout out to Authentic and the Beard. Great
More third person, man.
Good round of picks last week in the playoffs.
Yeah, 5-1 each, right?
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, I see y'all in the chat. I see Sarah. Sarah says the Rams are going to the Super Bowl. Maybe. I mean, if Matthew Stafford gets another Super Bowl, that's a gold jacket automatically. But let's get off into this Commanders matchup, man. I've been looking forward to talking about this one. I know you are as well. The Commanders, man, they're headed to the D, man. Shout out to Royce the 5'9", Jay Dilla, and all of the gang out there in the D, man. My barber that made you meet your barber, my homie Sean Tucker from Detroit, along with your boy Jimmy, man. But let's get into this matchup. The Commanders are going to be headed to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. All right, man. Like I said, if you are a Commanders content creator, it's been a tough road for you guys, but this year's been all worth it. You're going to want to get your spiral notebook and your pencil with an eraser on top ready to go because there's going to be a lot of nuggets in this one. The Commanders are going to be taking on the Lions here Saturday at 8 p.m. The Lions are favored by 9.5. The over-under was 55.5 last time I checked. That what you got?
Yep.
That sounded about right, man. These are two top offenses. I think the Commanders are the sixth ranked offense. Detroit Lions fifth. And where's Detroit?
In scoring.
In scoring.
Detroit's number one.
I thought so.
33.2 points per game.
They cooking. They definitely cooking over there. Last week, the Commanders beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jaden Daniels was everything in that game. He accounted for 87% of the offense, 268 yards through the air. He had like 37 yards on the ground, very pivotal yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Diami Brown, man, he was a dog in that game, had 89 yards and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin, the guy that I keep saying is not in the top 3, but some people are still giving me pushback on that little shorts on our YouTube channel. But he had a good day, too. He had 89 yards as well and a touchdown. That's the kind of productivity from your wide receivers that a quarterback like Jaden Daniels absolutely needs, but is not, I won't say necessary for a victory, but when we're talking about going up against the Detroit Lions, we're going to need a repeat performance of that one. Just 44 yards rushing from the running backs last week. That's not going to get it done. Lions are the number 1 seed. They had a bye last week. They got a 15-2 record. I mean, they're on fire right now. You just got to hope that, maybe that bye kind of took a little bit of steam off of their momentum, and you're going in here and you're catching the number 1 seed slipping. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We'll see. Last meeting, the Lions beat the Commanders 36-27. That was in 2022. Washington is coming off his first playoff win in 19 years. Jaden Daniels became the 4th rookie quarterback in NFL history to win his first career playoff start. The Lions and the Commanders last met in the playoffs in the 1999 season. The previous 2 times that they played in the postseason, which was in 1982, a year before I was born, and in 1991, the Washington Redskins of the time went on to go play in the Super Bowl. So that's some good stuff for you guys right here. The Lions have won the last 2 matchups. In fact, the Lions have won 6 of the last 7. 5 of those games were decided by 1 score. But this is a very different Commanders team with a very different beast at the quarterback position right now. The Commanders have won 5 straight games on the absolute last possession of the game in a row. And even when the surroundings are not perfect, Jaden Daniels has been completely great this year. And in my opinion, he is a top 10 quarterback right now. Sustaining drives and the red zone. I'm going to stay away from all the roadmap stuff that I can possibly stay away from. I know the Beard's got the roadmap ready to go and probably has a lot of nuggets on this one too, but it's super important that Washington capitalizes in the red zone and continues to sustain drives the way that they have been sustaining drives. Washington has the 5th best red zone offense in the league right now. The Lions have the number 1 red zone offense in the league. So this is going to be a great battle of two teams that like to score when they get between the 20. Last week, the Commanders did not punt the ball one time, but Washington was 2 for 5 in the red zone versus the Bucs. The Commanders only had 3 possessions in the first half, and the defense needs to find a way to get off the field. I think that was the theme of last week's game. Too many drives being sustained early on, keeping that defense on the field and keeping Jaden Daniels off the field, which is not a recipe for the victory. The Lions are going to try to establish the run. We do know that with Sonic and Knuckles, or whatever they calling them two dudes right now. But the Commanders ran 22% of their plays in the red zone in the first quarter this season. That's first in the NFL. So continue that theme. The Lions defense, they've been really good. They allowed a completion percentage of just 39% in the red zone this season, number 1 in the NFL. 35 completions on 85 attempts. And the second and third things I'll talk about here is discipline. The Commanders got to be disciplined. The Beard mentioned about the penalties, and last week they did kind of clean that up with 5 penalties for 39 yards. The Commanders are right in the middle of the pack as far as penalties go. They're 16th in the NFL, but the Commanders are 5-0 this season when the opposing team commits 60 yards or more in penalties. That's best in the NFL. So cross your fingers and hope that the Detroit Lions have a couple of pre-snap penalties.
We got a bad ref crew this week, though. They're very home and favorite friendly based upon the
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in none of that. What they, Detroit Lions fans over there?
Are the
stripes light blue?
That's just what the numbers say. The numbers say, just keep your eye on that. That's all.
I feel you on that. I think that Terry McLaurin's also going to have another big game here. We talked about the 89 yards last week, 10 targets, 12 targets against Dallas the week before. But Terry has not had a 100-yard game since Thanksgiving. And you know why that is because he's lacking the explosive plays in the last couple of weeks. That's been the big thing. Got to get the explosive plays. I don't know how much I talked about this at the beginning of the year with the New York Giants. Shout out to Warren Sharp. If you get just one explosive play on a drive, you are 10 times more likely to score a touchdown than if you don't have at least one explosive play. The Lions right now are 5-0 when allowing less than 5 explosive plays in a game, number 1 in the NFL. They also run a ton of man-to-man coverage, and in man coverage this year, they had 60.7% of their snaps on defense in man coverage. But Jaden Daniels has been really good against man coverage this year. 20 of his 25 passing touchdowns came against man coverage. He's been a little bit better against the zone, but, Jaden Daniels is the kind of quarterback that you can throw whatever you want at him, and he's still going to be able to get it done. I am afraid, though. I think that this is going to be another one of those games where if you guys want a victory here, Jaden Daniels is going to have to show up big because the supporting cast has not been consistent this year. Brian Robinson has not had a touchdown in 5 straight games. He's averaging just 35 yards per game over that 5-game stretch. Last week, he had 10 carries for 16 yards. I don't even want to try to do the math. It's pretty easy math, but that's not a good yards per carry.
1.6.
That's some shit right there. All right, the week before that,
shit.
1 point shit, yeah. The week before that against Dallas, he had 5 carries for 10 yards. That's not good either, okay? Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols, and Chris Rodriguez have combined for 85 rushes for 190 yards over the past 5 games. That's 2.2 yards per carry. We got to pick it up, guys.
2.2
yards per carry, all right? Now, Jaden Daniels, he was the leading passer and the leading rusher for the Commanders this season. I don't think you're going to be able to find another quarterback in the entire NFL that led his team in rushing and in passing. There's not another one.
No.
Now, QB has been the leading passer. Notice I say QB has been the leading passer and rusher for 4 straight games because even in the last game of the season, Marcus Mariota led you guys in rushing and passing as well. Yeah. And it's been in 5 of the last 6 games that the quarterback has led the team in passing and in rushing. So if you really, all year I've talked about this. Came into the year, I thought Brian Robinson was the best player on that offense. Jaden Daniels has clearly taken over the reins of the best player on that offense, and Terry McLaurin is being a guy who is reaping the benefits of that as well. When you have big games from Brian Robinson, it's typically a blowout for the Washington Commanders. The Arizona game, the Carolina Panthers game was like that, and a few others were like that. And when you don't have a good rushing game to support your young rookie quarterback, now you're putting all this stuff on his shoulders to have to go out there and win these games. Jaden Daniels in the fourth quarter has been electric. The guy has a completion percentage that jumps up 4 points in the fourth quarter. I told you when you guys first drafted him, Jaden Daniels' whole swag reminds me of a basketball player. Like the way he moves on the court, when you step back three, that's how Jaden Daniels does a little juke every now and again. Or when he stops on a dime when the defender's trying to get him when he's rolling out of the pocket, it's almost like a Tim Hardaway little stiff leg crossover, right? It's very quick and very, very basketball-like. Yeah. Even when you see him walking around the field, he got his chin to the sky, just like a basketball player does. I don't know if you remember at the pro day, he was carrying a basketball at the pro day on the sidelines. Remember that? So for me, I think that this game is going to boil down to truly Jaden Daniels and the way that he performs in this game. And if he can have a bigger, better day, clear better day than Jared Goff, the Washington Commanders should be able to win this game. Last thing I want to talk about is tempo, and I'm going to kick this to you. The Commanders' hurry-up offense. I went to the film session over the summer. Shout out to Chris Peace, who blessed me with the tickets for that. And I got to hang out with Daryl Tapp and Bobby Ingram, the wide receivers coach. And when I left that whole entire function, the theme of that function was this year, and I'm surprised they told this to the fans. I know it was for season ticket holders, and I weaseled my way up in there as a Giants fan, right? But I'm surprised they let the cat out the bag about this during the offseason. They said, Bobby Ingram in particular said, we are going to have a strong emphasis on the hurry-up offense this year. Jaden Daniels has played 1,079 snaps this season. 62.4 of them were out of the no-huddle. The Commanders have been, when they run that up-tempo offense, and the Beard loves it. He's been asking for up-tempo offense since we started the podcast. They are a much better team, and they are one of the best teams that run that no-huddle this season. They're first in passing yards. They're first in passing touchdowns. The completion percentage is where things get a little dicey, where they're about middle of the pack, but they're also first in first downs, and they're first in rushing yards. So I think the no-huddle is going to definitely play its role. You don't want to get behind the chains, and you don't want to get behind on the scoreboard too far so that you can't run the style of offense that you guys want to run. I think the Commanders got a great chance in this game against the Detroit Lions, though. And as you can see, my whole approach is from a Commander's perspective. I didn't break it down from a Lions perspective because one of the Beard's favorite movies, Cool Runnings, I don't know if you remember how they was doing Team Jamaica for like the first couple of runs. Like, man, who these bozos out here sliding around on the ice? And then when they started to show up and show out, finally the two announcers were like, hey, man, opened up the shirts, and they had the Jamaican shirts underneath. Well, I'm kind of repping for my boy with the Commanders here, and I'm rooting for a Commanders win. That's the reason why the whole approach comes from the Washington Commanders. But let me know your thoughts on this matchup. I think I was a little bit long-winded there, but I think I set it up pretty good.
There's plenty of wind in the room, my friend, for you. Okay? Listen, it's interesting you talk about that tempo offense because it's not a traditional hurry-up offense either. They kind of are. It's a no huddle more than it is a hurry up. They get to the line and they're running. They're making the play calls and they're substituting. It reminds me. It's funny. I talked about hockey earlier. It reminds me a little bit about hockey. Like there's like the line change almost because now you have to allow the defense to change their substitutions as well. But it's good. It's so good. I love it because we went years without seeing motion, for Christ's sakes, yet alone this sort of offense. I mean, we used to just beg for a wide receiver to run from one side of the formation to the other side, and I think Cliff Kingsbury has done such a great with that job with that, and I love it. And I think Austin Eckler coming back in the Dallas game was so important because it just gave him a little bit of that rust off, and he was really good in that game against Tampa Bay. Not crazy numbers, but he ran the ball for a couple of first downs, had a couple of huge catches, picked up some good blocks, protecting Jaden Daniels because the offensive line, it does its job, but it's very inconsistent as of late. And running the ball and passing the ball as far as blocking goes for that offensive line. A lot of people want to be like, put the blame on Brian Robinson, but I feel like, and I should have looked at these numbers specifically, but I feel like he's getting hit in the backfield on like 30 to 40% of those carries. Like it's not even like him not having the right vision or not making the right moves. Like they're getting hit in the backfield.
Yeah.
And that's an issue that they're going to have to figure out. And obviously the turnovers are huge for Washington. Like in the Tampa Bay game, that was a game changer. The Bobby Wagner picking up the Baker Mayfield fumble handoff. I still don't know if that was supposed to be a fake or it was a jet sweep.
Baker took blame for it.
Yeah, he took the blame for it.
Timing of the motion looked like it was a little bit ahead of the snap, and he tried to reach and he kind of couldn't get it there, and just a boneheaded play on his part.
Yeah, so I think that the turnover is going to be a huge, point of emphasis here. Washington during the regular season was +1. They were +1 in that Tampa Bay game. Detroit's +9, and Detroit's defense is banged up. I mean, they're hurt, but they got some guys back last week. They're going to have a couple of guys back this week, but they still played really well. I mean, you're talking about a team too with. This is another one that shocked me when I looked at these time of possession numbers, because generally you look at Detroit and you think they score quick, right? And the big plays, and it's just it feels like they're more quick offense. They're number 2 in time of possession.
Sounds right. I mean, they're the two-headed running backs, man, are really helping out that situation. And there are games. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions in a game, and they still won.
Yeah, that's a crazy game there. And listen, it's going to be interesting to see how David Montgomery is coming back from that injury. I know he's coming back for this game. They have weapons all over the damn field, and weapons that match up very well against Washington's weaknesses defensively. Jameson Williams, that guy can put up a 60-yard reception on you. He can get 5 explosive plays in a game by himself.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And then you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has his vendetta against the Washington franchise for picking Diami Brown over him. You got Sam Laporta. You got the two running backs.
I'm mad you just told me that, because I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he has the list, man. The list.
I remember the list, but when you correlate it to Diami Brown over
He's
Amon-Ra
on the
St.
list,
Brown, it's
trust
like,
me.
kill me. Let me jump off this bridge right now.
Yeah, they're picking the wrong Brown in that
God
situation.
damn.
But listen, shout out Diami. Diami had a great game last week. He stepped up huge for this offense, and we really needed him to. We're going up against the number 2 pass defense in the league. pass offense in the league. They're putting up 263 per game. Washington's pass defense is sneaky good, sneaky bad. Okay, because they don't allow that many yards. They don't, and they're one of the best in the league as far as yards allowed defensively passing. But
that stat is so skewed, bro.
It's so skewed.
Bro,
That's why
the Giants have the ninth best pass defense in the league from a yard standpoint.
It was Tennessee who really pointed that out to us, right?
Yeah. But Tennessee's, their pass defense has been good, but the field position has been what's really bad for them. You look at those two stats need to be correlated with points per game and passing yards per game. And throw passing touchdowns in there as well.
And then we're gonna separate the rushing yards from rushing quarterback yards too, right? Because that's another thing.
Think about the Rams in that situation, right? Yeah. Like you got Matthew Stafford, who's probably going to give you. I think I saw against the spread, this guy's like 10 straight games under the rushing total. Yeah. Like he's not getting you any rushing yards.
2 yards rushing maybe a game. You know what I'm saying? But like you look at Washington, it's like Jaden Daniels is probably in the season. It's got to be like 60%.
55. I know he's 55%. 55 yards per game on the ground.
Yeah, so 55 yards per game on the ground. Washington's number 3 in the league in rushing yards at 154.1.
Yeah. So he's a third of the yards. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Detroit's rush defense is fantastic. They're one of the few teams that allow under 100 yards rushing per game. 98.4 yards per game on the ground Detroit allows. And then points per game, you talked about this when we talked about the over. Washington's number 5 in the league at 28.5. Detroit Lions, number 1 scoring team in the league, 33.2. That is it's just bonkers to think that, And they're good defensively. They allow the 7th fewest points per game at 20.1. So, there's a reason they're 15-2, obviously. And then you went over some of those red zone numbers. I'm really concerned about some of that red zone, for Detroit offensively and defensively. Yeah. But that's
where you're going to need Brian Robinson, because their numbers in the red zone against the pass are really good.
Would you say 39? You said
percent? Yeah, 39%.
Yeah, so it's weird because it's like I want to talk about how important first and second downs are, and how important third downs are, and how important fourth downs are in this game, because each one of them are going to play a role, because you're down in distance on third is going to be so critical for both of these teams. Mm-hmm. So, yes, obviously first and second down, the success rate of those downs is what gets you to the third and manageable distances, right? Because third down offensively, Washington is number 6 in the league, 45.6%, right? Detroit Lions defensively, number 1 third down defense in the league, 32.4%. Conversion rate allowed on third down defensively. Offensively, You'd imagine Detroit, they're really good. They're fourth in the league at 47.6%. Washington's third down defense has struggled at times. Last week, they allowed Tampa Bay to be 5 of 9. They're about 15th in the league at 38.2 third down defensively. So a lot's going to come down to these third down plays. But let's talk about it realistically. This is Dan Campbell going up against Dan Quinn. This is going to be the Madden Bowl, okay? So for the first time in the history of this show, maybe, we're going to be talking about fourth down percentages like it's third down percentages. Washington is the best fourth down team in the entire league. This number is crazy to me.
80-something, I think.
87%.
Yeah.
Fourth
That's the
down
best
conversion.
number since 2000, I think. It's the
And
best
the
number
thing
since
is,
2000 with a certain amount of attempts. I think it's more than 16.
It's not like it's a small amount of attempts, right? Like, it'd be easy to be like 87%, and they've attempted 10 fourth downs this year.
Yeah.
They've attempted 22 fourth downs this year, I believe.
They've been great on fourth.
22.
And I think you're going to need a couple of those in this game.
Absolutely. And Detroit too. They do a lot of fourth down. They're number 7 in the league. 7-1. The discrepancy in difference in percentage is astronomical. So Washington at number 1 is 87%. Detroit number 7, 66.7%.
Yeah.
So it's a very very large difference there. Normally, like in third down percentages, the 1 versus 7 is probably like a 1 or 2 point percentage.
But a lot
difference.
more opportunities. With higher numbers, the percentages would level out a little bit more. But when you said Washington at 22 on the year,
22 on the year, I believe. Yes.
And I bet that's the most of any team.
It's up there. It's up there. There was a couple of other teams I think that had 26.
Okay.
So
I bet the Giants are up there. We've been we're like fourth down. Fuck it, go for it. We're a bad team.
20-yard line. Tommy DeVito, quarterback sneak. Why not? But listen, on paper, there's no denying the fact, right? The Detroit Lions are better at, I'd say, every single position on the field. I think you could argue quarterback. Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback right now than Jared Goff. I'm not going to give it to you, but I think you could argue it.
You could make an argument.
You could make an argument. Maybe the linebacker position, but that's more so because Detroit's banged up defensively.
Yeah.
Outside of that, that's it. I mean, we don't really. It's just a fact. The Detroit Lions are a better roster. They have better players up and down.
There's
a reason.
Kirby Joseph, who led the league in interceptions too. They definitely got some players in that secondary. They got some ballers over there.
Yeah, and it's just that's how it's going to be. You're going to be up against a juggernaut here. They're 15-2 for a reason. They're 9.5-point favorites for a reason. This game is in Detroit. But I mean, if I had to pick a team, like if I had to pick a team that was worse at every single position outside of maybe 1 or 2, debatable, obviously still, to win a game like that, it'd be my guys.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, y'all been doing that all year long. The roster doesn't necessarily entail the capability of that team because that quarterback has something special, just that clutch gene. And if they can keep the game close down the stretch and keep the ball in Jaden Daniels' hands, you're going to have a shot.
This is the sort of game that might come down to whoever has the ball last.
Yeah, or it could be just a Detroit Lions blowout, right?
Absolutely. I mean, let's be honest. We could totally get smoked by 20. I mean, but I don't think – also, we haven't played anybody of Detroit's caliber outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think we only lost 1 or 2 games by double-digit points this entire year.
Yeah, the opening day against the Bucs. That's really the only one I can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys have been good since then, and you rookie quarterback first game. We saw that on display here in the playoffs last week when you guys got to play the Bucs again. That Jaden Daniels is a different quarterback than he was from week 1.
It's interesting because Prime says I'm going to feel what the Lions felt against the Eagles in 22, and a lot of people have been making that comparison. The big difference, obviously, is Jaden Daniels and Daniel Jones. This night and day there, big difference. And Gregory says, what is Washington in third downs if they lead the league in fourth downs? Washington's third down offense is 6th in the league at 45.6%.
Yeah, that's good. And a lot of that's from Jaden Daniels' legs. He knows how to, get to those first down markers. I want to talk a little bit more about the no-huddle situation because Washington has been running no-huddle all year. But the Lions versus no-huddle have been pretty decent here. They've allowed only a 59% completion percentage. That's 6th best in the NFL. 7.6 yards per attempt is in the middle of the pack, but they forced a 5.1% throwaway rate, which is 6th best in the NFL. 13 PBUs against no huddle, which is 5th best, and 3 interceptions, which is 3rd best. And they've also had a tendency as of lately to blitz the quarterback more. The Lions defense blitzed on 30% of their plays in the last 4 weeks of the regular season. It's the highest in the NFL. The league average is 15%. They were blitzing at a 30% rate for the last 4 weeks. And the Lions defense under Aaron Glenn defending mobile quarterbacks, they've struggled. Like, I think that's going to be a big thing in this game. So when we look at QB scrambles, they're 16th against QB scrambles. They've allowed the 14th most first downs. The explosive run rate is 38.1%, which is 26th in the NFL. And 4.8% avoided tackle rate is 13th. Now, going against QB-designed runs, they're allowing 4.6 yards per carry, which is 23rd in the NFL. They've allowed the 18th most first downs, and they're 2nd worst as far as explosive run rate goes to quarterbacks on designed runs. So I would look for a few of those with Jayden Daniels. Obviously, keep him out of harm's way, but we've seen it. You know, they're not reluctant to run Jayden Daniels on a QB power, like right up the right side of the field.
Quarterback counters.
Yeah, they'll run a lot of that, which is, you know, normally for a quarterback that's a little bit more of a physical stature, but I think that Jayden Daniels is just a lot tougher than a lot of people give him credit for. And the last thing I'll talk about, the one perspective I think that could really put this game away is if the Commanders don't come out here and stop Sonic and Knuckles in the running game with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, combined for 32 touchdowns, over 2,200 yards, and that's a shit ton of yards, but the Commanders have allowed more yards than that on the year. The Commanders allowed 2,337 rushing yards this season. That's the 3rd most in the NFL. And the Commanders are allowing the 2nd worst explosive run rate this year. 13.7% of the time they're allowing an explosive run. So a lot of that, we know that Jahmyr Gibbs can definitely create explosive plays, not only from the backfield, but also in the passing game as well. So I think it starts right there. The plan of attack for the Washington Commanders, to me, in one regard, is pretty similar to how the Rams are going to line up against Saquon Barkley. Like, it starts there. If you can't stop the run, good luck trying to get the victory here. But I told you, man, I'm Team Jamaica right now. And I'm rolling with the Washington Commanders, bro. Like, straight up, man. I see pride. I see power. I see a bad motherfucker that won't take no crap from nobody. And it's Jayden Daniels. So I'm riding with them. It's the playoffs. The Beard ain't been here in 19 years. What would I look like picking the Detroit Lions? I don't care if they're the favorite team in this one by 9.5. I'm taking the Washington Commanders in a close one. I'm going 31-20 in favor of the Commanders.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like it. So I will give you all my score. We're gonna do the roadmap first. Last week's roadmap got a little bumpy. It's gotten to the point where I'm just gonna put 5 on for my roadmap. Just 5. Just that's all. That's what.
Don't get hurt. Finish the games.
But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this week's roadmap. It's a real fun one for you guys.
All right, let's get it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to Authentic, because he already knew what to put the keys in the ignition and turn the car was going to be. And that's going to be, you got to score 30 points. If you want to beat the Detroit Lions, you got to score 30 points. And how do you score 30 points? You do it by having 0 punts. I'm going to need 0 punts from the Washington Commanders in back-to-back games. And speaking of 0 punts, if you're going to have 0 punts, you better be 90% or better on 4th down in this game from the Washington Commanders. And we talked about the penalties. I'm sticking with 5. 5 is the theme, baby. So we're going to need 5 or less penalties from the Washington Commanders. Now, speaking of 5, if you want to be able to go 90+% on 4th downs and have 0 punts and score 30 points, you got to have a average to go distance on 3rd down of 5 or less yards. Then, up next, you're going to have to be 100% on scoring opportunities. And what that means, for those of you that don't know, if there is a case where the Detroit Lions miss a field goal, punt, or turn the ball over on downs, in any of those cases, or have a regular turnover, You have to score on every opportunity that you have off of those that the Detroit Lions give you. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to compete is if you take care of those opportunities. And listen, taking care of those opportunities also means, I'm just going to throw it out there, we're getting crazy today. You got to get crazy if you want to win as a 9.5-point underdog. 100% in the red zone, okay? You got to be 100% in the red zone. Listen, I've been tossing my hat this number of rushing yards for, it feels like 4 weeks, but we're going to stick with it. Jaden Daniels has got to run for at least 40. B-Rob's got to go for at least 60. And Austin Eckler's got to go for at least 40. Okay? We're going to need 140 from the trio. That's just
I think you're going to get the 140, but I don't know about the breakup, the way you slice the pie right there.
It might be 80 from Jaden and 20 and 20, right? Listen, speaking of running backs and running yards, this is going to be dicey. You're going to have to hold Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery combined under 120 yards rushing. And then last but certainly not least, when you put the car in park, you turn the car off, you take the ignition, the keys out the ignition. Those three things, ladies and gentlemen, you got to win the turnovers, the time of possession, and the third downs. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your roadmap to victory. And victory is what will be coming. It's going to be the miracle in Motown. The Washington Commanders are going to walk away victorious with a close game by a final score of 31-30.
And we both got 31. Okay, I went 20, you went 30. See, what I think is going to end up happening is Commanders will have the lead late, and they'll tack on an extra score that'll make that score look a little bit lengthier than it really is. Make it a 2-score game late in this one.
Yeah, shout out Jimmy. Jimmy says no huddle going to be hard to run when the Ford Field crowd is over 120 decibels all game.
It's not. I mean, I told you, Jimmy, the way they zoomed in on your boy Jaden Daniels last week.
He don't hear nothing.
Dog, it was ice. It was like, been here before. Deja vu. Go down here and get these points, man. Go get this money. About to go get that money.
I love that text, by the way. Thank you for that one.
All day, bro. All day. All day, bro. All right, Beard. That's what's up, man. Good little preview show there, man. This the kind of podcast that, like, if I were to see it as a fellow podcaster, I would have had out the spiral notebook. Like, man, these dudes got all the nuggets I need for my show tonight, man. You know what I'm saying?
All
right, so we're both locked in. We're both going Eagles. We're both going Commanders.
Yes.
You think we're gonna come out 2-0?
I do. I don't know what it is, man, but I'll know more after the Nationals. Well, listen, no, I won't. I will know. This is the first piece of the pie, man.
Yeah, this is.
To see if the special run continues.
Yeah.
It's weird because I'll end it with this. I remember early on in the season because there was this a little bit of a weird stretch here. Like when Washington was. When you were asking me, is Washington going to win a division, right?
Mm-hmm.
We was up. We was up, boy. And people were talking, and there was a lot of things that were happening for the first time since the last time that we won the Super Bowl. And then it kind of like, you know, took that little rough patch, you know, when we started facing a little bit tougher competition. And then it got real dicey towards the end. And then they really just kind of, that magical aspect of it. Because you have, in order to go on a run like Washington has done, you said it for the last 5 games, last possession of the game, bro. Like
always.
you have to have some magic, right? And I'm gonna continue to run with the magic until the magic runs out. You know, it just so happens Magic Johnson is one of partial owners here, so it's just there's a lot of magic in the building, and it's crazy to say this, but when you have Jaden Daniels as your quarterback. Every single game. I don't think anybody – I think 95% of NFL fans, pundits, analysts, players will sit here and say that if Jaden Daniels is playing quarterback, they have a chance to win.
Absolutely, man. He's a unicorn at the position, and we're talking about a guy just in his rookie year. And I know a lot of people have compared it to the C.J. Stroud, comparison and whatnot, but I think with Jaden Daniels, there's a difference in the dynamic playmaking ability. C.J. Stroud does a lot of it from the pocket, or did a lot of it from the pocket in his rookie season. But Jaden Daniels has done it every way. Explosive plays down the field to Terry McLaurin, intermediate stuff across the middle to I don't even want to say no-name wide receivers, but guys that you never thought were going to be having this kind of a role at this point in the season. Guys like Zacchaeus, just going across the middle, Diami Brown, and, with his legs, what he can do. He's the kind of guy that when everything's going wrong, he can, put that team on his shoulders and go out there and put the women and children to bed like my man Kane did back in the program, and go get you that victory. So you just got to keep it close, man. Your defense has been the unsung hero, I feel like, all season too.
Absolutely.
A lot of
Bobby
people are talking
Wagner,
about
Frankie
Bobby
Lulu.
Wagner for sure, Jeremy Chin, all these guys, man. Like, everyone talks about the offensive side of the ball when they talk about the rebuild with the Washington Commanders, but without the way that defense has been playing, I don't think they would be here, because you can have everything going wrong around Jaden Daniels, but the defense obviously has to come out and show up.
Best rookie quarterback season ever?
This one here, I don't know. Maybe. Possibly. I mean, Baker Mayfield had the record for most touchdowns as a rookie, I believe. There haven't really been that great rookie seasons. Andrew Luck had a pretty good one. RG3's was really good. I don't know, man. Yeah.
C.J. Stroud, that's pretty much the one
C.J.
that
Stroud
comes
was
to
pretty
your
good
mind.
too. Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see how things pan out. But
I'm trying to remember how Mike Vick's rookie season was, because I know statistically Mike Vick wasn't a guy.
Didn't he sit behind Schaub first for like half of his rookie year?
He might have. I can't remember exactly how that went down. We didn't have access to all this media back in the day.
Mm-hmm. But go Irish.
Go Irish, definitely.
Go Commanders. Shout out to Marcus Freeman, head coach of Notre Dame, first African American, and he is half Korean to coach to ever make it to a national championship game. And the national championship game is going to be on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it's in Atlanta. So just wanted to big shout out to Marcus Freeman. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch Here Comes the Irish on Peacock, it's like a Hard Knocks sort of thing. It's been stretching since the beginning of spring football, and it's still running now. They add a couple episodes like every other month. It's been fantastic. I suggest you give it a watch. It's really, really, really good insight into how difficult it is to play football at Notre Dame and how good of a coach Marcus Freeman is.
Yeah, he's been great this year. I had a conversation with Coach Loxley at the beginning of the year about no African-American head coach winning, from a Division I school, winning a championship, whatnot. So that's definitely an amazing feat if he can go out there. You guys are underdogs, but definitely going to be rooting for you in that game, rooting for your Commanders this weekend as well.
Go Jamaica.
It's going to be a good one. Any last words before we get the folks up out of here?
Nah, man, just go Jamaica.
Go Jamaica, man. Go Jamaica.
We love you guys.
Oh, we going.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be Jaden Daniels carrying that damn sled.
They got the big gloves on.
Yeah, them big padded ass
I need to post a clip of me and my guys from Cool Runnings on Twitter.
Junior.
Yeah. Junior and Malik
this
Yoba
doesn't mean
and,
I like
and
you.
Me. Hanging out. It's a great clip.
Definitely, man. We appreciate all y'all pulling up for this preview show, man. Divisional round. It's definitely going to be a vibe. Cross your fingers for the Beard, man, that his team can get this victory. It'll be really awesome to come back when we do our next show with another Commanders victory. I'm rooting for y'all all the way through and through. I don't care what these New York Giants fans telling me on Twitter. How can you root for a division, right? Man, shut your ass up, man. We rolling with the Beard's gang, all right? That's what we doing. Shout out to the gang for pulling up today and rocking out with us today, especially all the New York Giants fans, man. We appreciate y'all for sure coming here, showing some love to the Beard. Y'all know what it is, man. Keep raising that bar, y'all. Keep living those dreams, because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And a life without dreams, them dreams we talking about this weekend for the Commanders, is a life in black and white. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack. And that's a wrap, y'all. I will be on Bleacher Report here in about 50 minutes. If you want to pull up, I'll be talking about some of the coaching changes that happened in New York for about a good 30 minutes or so. That's going to start at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if we don't catch y'all there, we'll definitely catch y'all next week for hopefully another Commanders preview, which would be in the NFC Championship. That shit sound crazy. That sounds crazy. Y'all know what it is, though, man. We'll catch y'all on the flip side. Y'all be blessed, man. Peace.
Spike. don't care.